10 most unexpected race winners. Not exactly a feature of recent Formula 1 is this, an unexpected race winner. In recent years the Red Bulls, Mercedes, Ferraris and more recently my beloved McLarens have hungrily devoured the top rung of the podium so greedily that none of the mid to lower tier teams have had a sniff of a win. Now that has not always been the case, and when Lando Norris somewhat surprisingly managed a superbly professional win in the 2025 edition of the 78 round parade lap of Monaco, it led what remained of my brain after sitting through those mind-destroyingly brain-numbing laps to wondering about times when a totally unexpected driver did indeed manage to steal a victory. The 10 of the most unexpected race winners. Number 10. Olivier Panis, Monaco 1996. Monaco in 1996 wasn't the horror show that Monaco is in 2025. It was difficult, but by no means impossible to overtake, and I was giddy with excitement to see Schumacher's Ferrari battle the two Williams for the win and maybe even see a McLaren challenge for a podium. And boy oh boy did Monaco deliver a doozy in 1996. The Red Baron qualified first, followed by Damon in the Williams. Olivier Panis battled to only start his little Ligier in 14th. A beautiful car that was. After 5 races in the 96 championship, Panis had scored all of a single point, 1 point. To say he wasn't expected to win would be a bit of an understatement. Then came the rain. So much rain they had a special wet weather practice before the race. Andrea Montemini crashed his 40 during pre-race warm-up and couldn't even start. Early in the race, Hill passed Schumi and further back Jos the Boss Verstappen, who for some reason started the race on slick tyres in the wet, connected with a wall, as happens when you're on slick tyres in water. Soon the two Minardis took each other out and Schumacher also connected with a wall. Barrichello spun and retired, and after only 5 laps, 13 cars were all that remained as Ukio Katayama, Ricardo Rosset and Pedro Diniz also retired. Gerhard Berger's transmission died on his Benetton. Frentzen damaged his car and slid down the grid to second to last place. Martin Brundle spun and we were down to 11. Hill's oil pump failed when almost 30 seconds clearing the lead. Jean Alesi took the lead for 20 laps before his suspension failed, leaving Olivier Panis in front. More excitement was due as Badoer took out Villeneuve and Salo, Irvine and Häkkinen tangled to all retire, leaving Panis just ahead of David Coulthard's McLaren. The race was stopped by officials for reaching the time limit, and despite retiring, Frentzen, Salo and Häkkinen were classified in the points. And that was back in the time when only the top 6 scored points. Only 4 drivers officially finished the race, and Panis' win was the first for Ligier in 15 years. Number 9. Esteban Ocon, Hungary 2021. Who thought Ocon would be winning this? Well, there was one guy actually. He knew nothing about Formula 1, and he only supported Alpine Renault because his wife drove a Renault, and he didn't want to support the same team as myself and another couple of friends with who we were watching the race. And what an insufferable jackass he was to watch this race with, seemingly cheering on Ocon every time he changed gears. At the start, Bottas used his Mercedes as a bulldozer and took out Norris and damaged both Red Bulls, causing a red flag, and everyone except Lewis Hamilton pitted for dry tyres, leaving Ocon fighting a well past his sell-by date Vettel for the lead. Hamilton came scything through the field with the right tyres, but was held up so skillfully by Ocon's teammate and well-established hater of all things Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, that it gave Ocon the much-needed gap to go on and win from the later-to-be disqualified Seb Vettel. We were shocked. Mr. Renault was joyous, and of course has duly never watched another race. Number 8. Damon Hill, Belgium 1998. Damon Hill won the World Drivers' title for Williams in 1996, but was immediately discarded by the team and left for Arrows, where he put up one of the worst title defenses in racing history. When he joined Jordan for 98, partnered by Ralf Schumacher, he was seen as very much yesterday's hero. Before the Belgian Grand Prix, Hill had retired from 4 of the 12 races that season and scored points only twice. Surprisingly, he had qualified third, but the 2 Ferraris of Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine were right behind him and would surely pass him, no worries. Race day was wet and conditions seemed to suit Schumacher more than any other driver on the grid. Say that quickly, seemed to suit Schumacher. Why is that so difficult? Early in the race, Coulthard hit the trackside wall and his McLaren bounced back into the field, taking out 11 other cars, almost half the grid. Poof, gone. The race was red flagged. To clean up the carnage, 4 drivers couldn't take the spare car to restart, as was then allowed. From the restart, Damon took the lead, leaving Schumi and Häkkinen to fight into the first corner, where Häkkinen collided with Herbert, leaving both retiring. Coulthard and Alex Wurz also clashed on lap 1, leaving Wurz retired and Coulthard at the back of the grid as a safety car was deployed. After the safety car was gone, it took Schumacher a few laps, but he passed Hill for the lead. At the pit stops, Villeneuve took the lead but spun off, and Schumi was nearly 40 seconds up when he came up to lap Coulthard, and the two came together in one of the most infamous crashes of either man's career. Irvine spun off and Fisichella hit Nakano to retire with a burning car, leaving only 6 cars running. Hill would end up winning from teammate Ralf Schumacher to take his 22nd and final, and Jordan's very first Grand Prix wins. Number 7. Sergio Perez, Sakhir Grand Prix 2020. Perez failed hard at replacing Lewis Hamilton at McLaren, and a few years later he was seen as a good guy, but not anything special on track. Then came the 2020 Sakhir Grand Prix, a one-off race during that crazy COVID time. In quali, Perez put his pink Merc 5th, well ahead of the teammate called Stroll in 10th. Hamilton was unable to compete, and George Russell took his place for the race and made a great start with teammate Bottas behind him, leaving Leclerc, Max and Perez to fight for third. At turn 4, Leclerc braked late and hit Perez and caused all sorts of chaos in a safety car. Leclerc and Verstappen retired, and Perez was all the way at the back of the grid after the incident. By lap 20, Perez had fought his way back to 10th and a point-scoring position. King Latifi retired with an oil leak, triggering a virtual safety car because of all the oil on track. Some teams pitted immediately and some were caught out by how short the virtual safety car was and lost position, leaving Perez third. When Latifi's teammate crashed and left debris all over, a second virtual safety car was upgraded to a full safety car, leading to Mercedes having a mental breakdown in the pits and Perez leading the race. Russell was on fresh tyres, most cars ahead of him were not, and the Englishman was flying, passing all but Perez before suffering a very unfortunate puncture on lap 78. Perez took his and Racing Point's first race win ahead of Ocon and teammate Stroll. 6. Pierre Gasly, Monza 2020. When Gasly got the second-seated Red Bull, his career seemed to be going right to the top. You see, back then that seat wasn't the poisoned piece of poop it had become since. Only a few years prior, it was Max Verstappen himself who'd gotten his big break from that position. After only 12 races, Gasly was given the boot as he was relegated to the Colourful Cows B team. That was 2019. Come 2020 and the man was rebuilding his reputation as a solid performer who had probably been treated unfairly by the powers that be over in energy drink land. Come Monza and Gasly qualified his AlphaTauri 10th, just ahead of teammate Danny Kvyat. Early in the race, Bottas' Mercedes had problems and Vettel had to retire his Ferrari. On lap 19, Magnussen's Haas died in a dangerous place, necessitating a safety car. Gasly pitted just before the safety car, and due to the position of the stricken Haas, the pit lane was closed when it was deployed, giving the Frenchman a very fortunate advantage. and leading to penalties for Hamilton and Giovinazzi, who pitted despite the pit lane being closed. When the pits reopened, most of the field pitted, leaving Gasly third behind Lewis and the unpitted Stroll. Leclerc crashed and red flags were waved. At the restart, Stroll went wide and Hamilton served his penalty, leaving Gasly in front and holding on to win ahead of McLaren's Carlos Sainz. The result meant that Ferrari, Mercedes and Red Bull had all failed to score a podium finish for the first time since the 2012 Hungarian Grand Prix. It was also the first time since the 2013 Australian Grand Prix that the race winner did not drive a Ferrari, Mercedes or Red Bull. Number 5. Danny Ricciardo, Monza 2021. Ricciardo did not do well at McLaren. In the end, they paid him a boatload of money just to leave so they could replace him with Piastri. But for one glorious afternoon, also at Monza, he showed what could have been. Ricky Smiles qualified his papaya 5th, behind teammate Lando Norris, and he finished 3rd in the sprint race that decided qualifying for the main race. In the main race, Ricciardo overtook old foe Verstappen early to take the lead and held the Dutchman at bay for 22 laps before a pit stop issue damaged the King of Orange's race. He himself ended it when he literally drove over Hamilton's Mercedes to end both men's afternoon. Ricciardo kept his cool and ended up winning from teammate Lando Norris. It was McLaren's first win since Brazil 2012. Number 4. Alessandro Nannini, Japan 1989. The race became infamous for McLaren teammates and title contenders Senna and Prost coming together on lap 47, which led to Prost retiring. The McLaren was such a dominant car that Senna rejoined the track after the crash, pitted for a new nose cone, and still rejoined only a few seconds behind new race leader Nannini. Senna promptly passed Nannini and finished first with Nannini second in his Benetton. Before this, Brazilian was disqualified for getting an advantage when missing the chicane when he bumped off Prost off the track, which of course wasn't the case, but who are we to doubt the wisdom of the FIA. Nannini was handed the win and took the top step on the podium ahead of Patrese and Thierry Boots. Number 3. Jarno Trulli, Monaco 2004. Jarno Trulli was known as the leader of many a Trulli train during his time in Formula 1. What is a Trulli train, you ask, youngster? That was what fans used to call it when Trulli was going so slow, but defending so well that the cars behind him couldn't get past and queued up like some weird version of a 300 km/h traffic jam. Trulli actually qualified first for Monaco in 2004, but the attention was on Schumacher's Ferrari and Alonso's Renault. After a crash at the start, Alonso battled Trulli for the lead, but the Italian was on fire, keeping the Spaniard at bay. Alonso crashed when trying to lap Ralf Schumacher, and Trulli kept the lead. In true Trulli and Monaco fashion, he led a shortened two-car Trulli train over the finish line, beating Jenson Button by only half a second to take the only win of his career. Number 2. Pastor Maldonado, Spain 2012. If you know the name Maldonado, you know he is known for ridiculous mistakes, being one of the most dangerous drivers in recent memory and somehow being Williams' most recent race winner. Having seen the dangers of a flying Maldonado on television for so long, I'm still without words to describe the man's greatest moment. So the following paragraphs are quoted from the Formula1.com website. Promoted to pole position in Barcelona, when Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes was excluded from qualifying, Maldonado drove a superbly composed race on what were highly unpredictable tyres, even surviving a full-blooded attack from home favourite Fernando Alonso to deliver the unfancied Williams team their first win in 8 years. But as quickly as race-winning form arrived, it disappeared again. In the 71 races following his victory, Maldonado only made it back into the top 5 once. End quote. Drum roll please. Number 1. Giancarlo Fisichella, Brazil 2003. Ah yes, the most surprising win on this list. The man himself did not even know he won the race for quite some time after the finish. Trouble was, on lap 52, David Coulthard rejoined in 4th position after a pit stop, gifting the lead to Kimi Classic, with Fisichella going quick in 2nd and Alonso 3rd. Fisichella passed Kimi for the lead, but both were running low on fuel, leaving Coulthard as the likely winner. Mark Webber, however, lost control of his car, crashing heavily, spewing debris, including 3 of its 4 wheels, across the track, necessitating a safety car. Fisichella and Kimi negotiated the debris, but Alonso whacked into one of Webber's wheels, resulting in a huge accident and the race being ended with a red flag. In Parc Fermé, Fisichella's car actually caught fire after overheating behind the safety car, but the chaos was far from over. According to the rulebook, the race was, and I quote, deemed to have finished when the leading car crossed the line at the end of the lap 2 laps prior to the lap during which the signal to stop was given, end quote. In the event, more than 75% of the race was completed. The official timekeeping screens first showed that Fisichella had begun his 56th lap. Then his status was briefly disappeared for some reason and displayed it as on his 55th lap. Race stewards basing their decision on their belief Fisichella was still on his 55th lap. Fisichella celebrated with the Jordan team in the belief he had won, before they were informed that Raikkonen had indeed won the race. After a hugely confusing internal investigation by F1's official timekeepers, the win was re-awarded to Fisichella on the 11th of April. But the race had been held on the 6th of April. It was actually Fisichella's first and Team Jordan's final win, even though he was only awarded the win 5 days after the race had finished. At least the officials made sure it was a memorable victory for Jordan and for himself. And yeah, that is it. So once more we reached the end of a video. If you enjoyed watching, please show your support by subscribing, liking the video, leaving a comment. It's free, needs minimal effort from you and keeps the old algorithm going. Thanks again. God bless and goodbye.